Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Michael's Record Collection. We have a little bit different show for you this time out. I'm welcoming a couple of guests to help me talk about the best second singles. And what we're doing is we're picking second singles that we liked better than the first single that came out from an album, even though we liked that first single. So it's a little bit of a convoluted topic, but no one better here to go through a convoluted topic than JP and Rob from the Great Song Podcast. Guys, welcome.
Yeah, convoluted. That's us.
Yeah,
Let's do
we
this.
love it. Get those fingers dirty.
I'm going to ask you the question I always ask my guests. And I guess because if you're watching this video, you'll know why I'm doing it in this order, because I'm seeing JP on the top and Rob on the bottom. So I'm going to always go to JP first, just
Well, I'm normally the other guy. I'm the so I can actually start with a joke that's related to that. So we kind of have a running joke on our podcast that I'm the Steve Kerr of the podcast, and Rob is like the Michael Jordan and Pippen and everybody all combined in one. He's the talent, but every now and then I'll come in and hit a clutch three. But sports fans, maybe that'll resonate. I actually have a Steve Kerr jersey downstairs with a good story to go with.
Yeah. When he says we have a joke, he means he has a joke.
he has a joke.
Well, thank you for starting with me. Most of the time, Rob kicks it off. He starts every week of our podcast.
All right. Well, this is a nice little turnabout. Since it's not your show, you get to
right.
go first. So, I'm going to ask JP, what was your first favorite record?
Oh man. So I can do this a couple of different ways. I guess the first cassette I ever bought was Boys to Men Cooley High Harmony. I was in the 5th grade and I bought it at Cat's Music. And for you East Tennessee folks, it's in Knoxville, Tennessee. Cat's Music was the junk. And so yeah, Boys to Men was big at the time. I wasn't really big into necessarily, R&B and hip hop, but that was kind of the thing. And my grandparents were with us in the car, and my mom's like, okay, you can listen to it in the car, but you've got to sit in the very front and like put your head against the dash, and we'll fade all the music to the front speakers. Like there's no way today that parents would be like, get up here in the front in the middle and pin your head against the dash and listen. But yeah, that
just because they didn't want to hear it.
Because they didn't want to offend my grandparents.
Oh,
we would rather have our child die,
right,
than to offend the grandparents.
That's right. Yeah, if you'll just put your head like to the side of where the airbag would actually help you if we got in an accident.
Yeah, it's I don't even know if there were airbags then. This is yeah. So that's the first one I remember buying, but fell in love with. I'll table that while Rob gets his answer, and I'll pass to him.
All right, Rob.
I probably the immediate answer for me, the first favorite record of mine that wasn't like a record of my dad's that I loved was probably a Weird Al album of some sort. One of the like Dare to Be Stupid or one of those Off the Deep End was probably it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
sorry, JP. I didn't give you much time to think.
No, and then he took a drink.
I took I drink a lot of water, so Rob actually has to tell me like I can't have ice or anything, or I'll be like the whole time. You'll see me chugging a bunch of bottles of water. Fell in love with, man. Yeah, I would probably go something. I grew up like in a pretty conservative home, so we listened to a lot of like Christian music growing up. So I grew up on a band called Petra that I was a big fan of. I don't know if y'all have heard of Petra. Striper, you remember Striper?
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah.
They had an album called To Hell with the Devil and Soldiers Under Command that I just loved. Striper. So, but I was a guy, there's a guitar player named Phil Keggy that I cut my teeth on.
I know Phil Keggy. He's a great guitarist.
I'm probably going to go, first album I ever fell in love with is Flipside by Phil Keggy. So there's my answer.
All right. So the Great Song Podcast, you guys can choose however you want to do this. Describe, for someone who's never heard your podcast, what do you guys bring to the table? What is somebody going to be able to expect when they download your show?
So I think the thing that characterizes our show, and JP, you can chime in at any point, but I think the thing that characterizes our show is energy. really more than like, every podcast tries to come prepared and everybody tries to do their research and whatever. But I think what,
Really? Is that what
and
I'm
what,
doing wrong?
right? But, I think the thing that we hear from guests very often is that they love our excitement and they love that, like, we really love what they're doing. And JP always goes like super deep on people, even if it's somebody that like he's not as familiar with. He'll go super deep until he finds stuff that he just absolutely loves. And so being genuine and being excited, I think, are the things that probably have helped us, to kind of grow and catch more people.
We Rob, I mean, you could kick them our intro. We've done the same intro. We're in season 11. We're coming up on season 11, and we're almost to episode 2. We'll hit episode 250 this season.
Nice.
And we've done the same intro for like 200 plus of them. And
That's
I think that's probably how I would answer it. Rob, you want to just kick it? And
I got to do my loud voice. Hold on, my kids are in bed. Let's try it. Season's greetings and welcome once again to the Great Song Podcast. I'm Rob Alley.
I'm JP Moser.
And we're here to celebrate the greatest songs in modern music history. We're going to tell you what makes them great, why we think they're awesome, and why you should too. And then we say, JP, how you doing today, man? And he says,
doing fantastic. And then I give a fantastic related to the episode or something that ties us in, and we go from there. But yeah, that's kind of us. We and we get to interview a lot of artists. I've heard a few of yours. I saw you got to hang out with Corky Lang, which was kind of cool for us to see. That was kind of neat. I always like seeing the ones that we both hung out with and listen to some of the different things that are covered. But that's something that's been neat for us, is getting to interview these people that we grew up listening to. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, Corky was a wild one because that was the day that we found out Charlie Watts died, and that was during that show.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's crazy that it's with a drum. You're with freaking Mountain's drummer when you went out on that day.
Yeah. Dang.
But
so who are some of the favorite guests you've had, or the ones you thought maybe there's no way we get this person, and then you ended up getting them?
Go ahead, Rob.
I always think of Dave Barnes. He's been our most frequent guest at this point. But when he first came on, he was like, it was like, no way, because he's legit just one of our favorite artists, period. And he's, still in the middle of his career. And so for us to get him was awesome. And then we got to be like in person with him in studio, and we just gelled with him immediately. And so it was, right away, he was like, when can I come back on? And so now he's been on with us like 9-10 times. I don't know. He's, everybody's favorite guest. And so he's the one that I always just go, I can't believe that happened. It's hard for me to register that actually, but there's been so many that we just go, you in the Zoom call or whatever, and you go, dude, we just talked to blah, 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 blah. Mark Farner was one that we just went, what? I don't know. Who you got, JP? Who you always say?
I was gonna. The reason I looked down at my phone, I wasn't being rude. We actually answered this question.
So bored.
To Dave, he asked us the other day. He's like, "Who's your 5, favorite that you've had on there?" And I was trying to think. But I thought getting Don McLean was pretty cool. Talk about American Pie. I thought that was neat. I'm a big Styx fan. I'm a huge Styx fan. So we had Lawrence Gowan from Styx. So I kind of geeked over that one. That was fun to me. And then we've got, I don't want to be the guy that like teases, but we've got 2 next season that I'm like, I can't believe we landed them. Like there's a couple like pretty legendary ones that we have coming on that I'm
Michael, when is this episode set to drop?
I think we will go the week after next as we are recording this.
Okay. Yeah. Well then, so what day?
No, I'm sorry. It will go next week. It would be the first weekend, the 1st of February, 2nd of February, whatever that Thursday is.
Okay. Right. Well, okay. So then, So we'll just say our season opener is next week. Then there's later that week, and we've got a heck of a doozy in store for the season opener.
And the thing that I think is neat that we do too is like we had Dave Haywood from Lady A, if you have any country fans, and then we had DC the Brain Supreme from Tag Team. So we don't just stay in the classic rock. That's more of our genre, I guess, if we're going to pick one. It's a lot of classic rock, a lot of modern. Well, we had a whole 90s month section where we had Gin Blossom's Fastball, all those guys. But we kind of run all over the place. So.
Yeah, you've had some great guests. You've had, Andrew Ferris of In Excess, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That was awesome.
Yeah, 80s month was great too. I forgot we had all that. We had that was a fun one. 70s month was fun too with Looking Glass and all those guys. That was a goodie. So
yeah. My guy that I didn't think I could get was also from Styx. I had Dennis DeYoung on.
Dennis DeYoung. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. That was cool. I liked the approach you went with him too. I thought that was really neat. And I don't want to talk about all the things that I've listened to of yours as we go through, but I've got a thing or two that I want to talk on that well, I guess I can give this as a rule out the gate. You want to tell the concept, and I'll tell you one of the rules that I have based on an episode that you did.
Okay. So the concept of what we're talking about in this episode is, I thought it would be interesting. Everybody kind of comes out of the gate. Usually you think the record company would know what they really want to promote. They really want to like put a song out there. This is the album we're going to put out. This is the single. And a lot of times those singles are really good songs, but they're not the best songs. And I think sometimes that might be done on purpose, but other times I think maybe they just don't know what they have. So my thought was, let's find songs that we love more than the first single. But like an album might have 6, 7 singles off of it, but it's that second one. It's the second one that really grabbed us. And maybe the 5th single is even better, but it's basically to prove the point that the first single isn't always correct.
Yeah.
Well, that'll cue me onto my first rule that I set for myself. So on your 53rd episode, you discussed Journey Escape. So I had to rule out all things Journey because you and Dave would have done a much better, thorough job than I would. As much as I'm a big Journey fan, you did a great job running that gamut. And I know Don't Stop Believing was a number 2. So sorry if I took one of yours. You can talk about it later. But I said no Journey. So I made that as a rule for me. I also said that I can't discuss anything Beatles because that's something that I did for me, because every Beatles song is you could get, whether it's first, second. So I made a rule, no Beatles. And then I learned along the way that every Garth album, I like his 4th track the best.
Okay.
Those are 3 things. I was like, there's going to be a Garth thing on here that I really like, but The Dance, track 4, That Summer from the Chase album, track 4. So those are my 3 guidelines that I set.
That's funny.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I also thought about that. I thought about the Journey thing, and I went, we already talked about Journey.
Kind of already covered that, right?
Yeah.
But I had no rules whatsoever. I'm completely lawless in this action.
No rules, just right. Like Outback Steakhouse or whatever it was. Yeah. So the just to kind of wrap what we're talking about with your show, you guys have been doing this a little while. As you said, you're coming up on 250, which is an amazing milestone for podcasting. But how did you get started? What made you think this is something that we want to do?
I was taking my kids to school one day and dropping them off after at the morning, and Walking in Memphis was playing on the radio, and I'm pulling out of the school, and the 3rd verse is on for Walking in Memphis. It gets to the end of that 3rd verse, Muriel played piano, that whole verse, and it comes to the end where it says, she said, "Tell me, are you a Christian child?" And he said, "Ma'am, I am tonight." And that line I knew this, obviously I knew the song, but I just went, my gosh, that line is so good. You could spend an entire podcast just talking about that line. And I went, oh snap. I really could spend an entire podcast just talking about that line. And so I in my brain, it was immediately. I don't know, because it would have been like 6 a.m. where you are, JP. So I don't know if it was immediately, but maybe I sent you a message or whatever. But in my brain right away, I picked up a phone and called you and said, dude, we're starting a podcast. And JP goes, what's a podcast? Like at that point, not so much with the podcasting. He's like, what are we talking about here? What do you mean?
By the time we recorded our first episode, I'd only listened to one podcast, and that was Serial, which is nothing like what we do.
Sure. Yeah. So I was like, he's like, how are we going to do it? I was like, I don't know. We'll figure it out. The Zoom method wasn't really prevalent at that point. And so we literally, to this day, I'm leaving tomorrow to head to JP's house, and we're going to record all day. And we do, blocks. We'll record as many episodes as we can in a day, or we're like, here's a day full of interviews, and then we'll catch up with the episodes later, that kind of thing. And we still record together to this day, even though we have this Zoom capability. So, but that's how we started. I was like, dude, we have to do this. And it's been awesome because at that point, we might have seen each other maybe once a year, something like that, every year, 18 months even. But now we see each other every month, a couple times a month, depending on the thing. So it's been awesome.
All right. Well, that's great. I mean, it's great when you can get together and do that, because then you can riff off each other. Sometimes the Zoom thing, when two people are talking, it gets awkward for a second, that kind of thing. So yeah, we've run across that before. But you guys can be found on all the major platforms. You can be found obviously at greatsongpodcast.com. And we'll give that information again later at the end when we wrap up. But it's fun to listen to. It's fun to sort of, when you guys drill down to something like like a riff or something. I always enjoy that. Do you each kind of bring your own ideas in for this is something I want to talk about, then you go see if you can get the guest, or do you see if you can get a guest and then find a song that you want to talk about with that guest?
You want to handle that, JP?
I'll take that one. So I'm kind of the guest getter. Like that's kind of my, and we made the Steve Kerr joke earlier. Whenever I land somebody, I'll just send Rob a picture of me wearing the Steve Kerr jersey. And I'm like, you want to play a game? And then we'll play a game like where I send him clues and we try to guess who it is. Mm-hmm. So the way we pick the guest, it's stuff that we've talked about in the past. We like a lot of the same music. So it's not hard we're always pretty in agreement on the guest. In terms of prep, we don't prep with each other before. So when we sit down so that's one of the hardest things that we've had to work through is we'll find a piece of research and be like, hey, just as a heads up. But we don't. We sit down and we go. So, and that makes it kind of fun because we don't know where it's going to land.
Yeah, we get our genuine reactions to each other's information in real time, with no prep, and so it's a lot of fun. It's very, it's really conversational, and we'll go, dude, we have got to record this episode soon. I cannot sit on this little tidbit any longer, whatever.
Like. So. We do sections each episode where we do a Stump the Genius game where I make the joke that Rob's the genius, and we do a Stump the Genius game, and then we do a Meet the Band section where I discuss the band, and Rob does the theory because he's way smarter than me on that stuff. But like there's an episode we're doing tomorrow that I had this bit of band that I learned. I didn't know this person played on this album and did this, and I can't wait to share it. And it's been killing me, and I can't wait to record the episode tomorrow. So it's stuff like that makes it fun, but the reactions in real time is a lot more fun. So that's kind of how we do it.
And how often do you both nail down the same tidbit that you're excited to bring to the other one, and the other one's like, that's what I was going to bring?
I would say pretty often there's at least some crossover in stuff that we find, because you end up, everybody kind of ends up in their preferred like wells where they find their information, you know what I mean? So there's we'll have some crossover, but the best is when we find something that's like major that the other one didn't find, you know what I mean? Or something that's really, really interesting that the other one didn't find.
I'd say 100% on both of those. I'd say every episode there's something that we both knew. And then I say that every episode there's something that we're both like, no way, are you kidding? I didn't know. So I think that's kind of neat.
Yeah. So. The reason I asked is because you guys are friends and you have similar musical tastes. So, sometimes that kind of bleeds into everything else. So, but that's good. It's good that you have that moment of surprise in the show, and you can geek out over something that you maybe weren't aware of. So that's cool.
Absolutely.
All right. So we each picked 5 songs where we liked the first single from the album, but we like the second single a little more, at least a little more, maybe a lot more in some cases. And I'm going to start. We're going to go round robin. JP's going to go first, and then Rob, and then I'll bring up the rear here. So JP's first. What's your first song?
I really am the captain of this thing. Okay, so first one, I'm going Eric Clapton. I'm going to actually show for the listeners which project I'm going. Eric Clapton, Journeyman. The first single was Pretending. It's a great song. But the second one I love. It's Bad Love. It won the Grammy for Best Male Vocal. It was released as the second single in March of 1990. The album came out in '89. On guitar, other than Clapton, is Phil Palmer. Alan Clark plays keyboard. Pino Palladino plays bass. Don't let the video fool you. Nathan East plays bass in the video, so everybody thinks Nathan East played bass on the track, but he doesn't. It's Pino, and Phil Collins on drums. A couple of backing vocalists y'all probably won't know, but Katie Kissam and Tessa Niles. His label was like, write another Layla. And he's like, okay, no problem. Let me just do a fiery intro riff, which it has the ba-da-ba-da-da. So he's got that, the little badge like bridge section, and voila, you got it. So it's not Layla, but I love Bad Love, the second single from Journeyman by Clapton.
I agree with you. I like that song better also than Pretending, although I do like Pretending.
Yes. Hey, that's my number one.
Rob, what do you got?
This is very on brand for me, for anybody who's listening who knows me already. I went with the soundtrack to Batman Forever. Big superhero guy, and I thought that'd be a fun one to do. And so I looked up the single release order. And so it just so happens that on June 5th, 1995, from that soundtrack, U2 released Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, which I love. I love that song, and it's a great song. But the next day, on June 6th, 1995, Seal dropped Kiss from a Rose, which is, of course, all-time classic smash from the Batman Forever soundtrack. Had the video that was like, using part of the sets and all that stuff. And so anyway, Batman Forever soundtrack is one of my favorite soundtracks. But that one got to give the edge there to Seal.
I cannot believe you did that. And I'm going to pause you because mine's not the Batman, but my number two in order is freaking Seal. The second single is Kiss from a Rose.
Wow.
So first one is Prayer for the Dying. That is crazy.
That's hilarious.
Rose released June 18th on my birthday. That's nuts. Okay, I've got some alternates in case we duplicated. So
okay, I did too.
Okay, so I'm going to throw that one, but that was my number two. Okay.
That's hilarious.
You guys are way more prepared than me. I brought 5, and that's all I got. So for crossover, I'm screwed.
I'm narrowing down as we go, but that was seriously my number two. That's crazy.
I love amazing. Where this is going already. That's 2 very distinct and different types of song, and I'm really kind of glad you went with a soundtrack. I didn't even think to go with a soundtrack, so that's really cool. I'm going to start off with the I'm going to break JP's rule about no Beatles.
Okay. All righty.
I'm starting off with the Beatles. Now, the funny thing about the Beatles is it's hard to do them in this kind of format because so many of their singles were released without an album. Right. Just putting out a single is a different era and that kind of thing. And some of the albums are listed. They don't actually list any singles as being released, or it's a double-sided single.
Yeah.
So I did find one, though. And I'm going to go chronological, so I'm starting with the oldest one.
I thought about doing that. I'm glad you did. I like that. That's way smarter than us.
I didn't know how else to do it, but so I went with I went with the Beatles' "Let It Be," which was released March 6th, 1970, from, of course, the album "Let It Be," which was released May 8th, 1970. So the single preceded the album, and it was the second single to precede the album. And it was the second of 3 singles from the album. It followed Get Back, which came out in April of 1969, and it was before The Long and Winding Road came out in May of 1970, just 3 days after the album dropped. So by the 3rd day after the album dropped, they were done releasing singles from it. But of course, most of those songs have been played on FM radio for years now.
Yeah.
But it was written and sung by Paul McCartney, obviously, a song inspired by Paul having a dream about his dear departed mother. And I love that just the way he sings it is I think it's one of his sweetest lead vocals in all of his time with the Beatles. It's just the way he just sings it with such love, I guess. And of course the piano is excellent. And there's actually different versions of this, and you can even go on the streaming sites and like play the version that's on the number ones and play the version that's on the album, and they're different. The album has an edgier guitar. They ramp up the orchestral stuff on the album version, and I love both of them. I wouldn't be able to pick one over the other, I don't think. But it's whether it's the stripped down piano only version or the big percussion and soft choir and all of that. It's a fantastic song. I love Get Back too, obviously, but this was just on another level for me. This thing went to number one on the Billboard Hot 100 and the adult contemporary charts. It was number one in 10 other national charts around the world, but ironically, it was not number one in the UK. It only made it to number two.
That's insane.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. So I'm starting off with the Beatles, and that brings us back around to you, JP.
That's the other thing I didn't want to be. I didn't want anybody to have to follow the Beatles. That's impossible to do. No matter what you say, it's not. Well, this is my, I guess, number two. I had it as number three, but I scratched two. I'm gonna do Coldplay section. So I'm gonna give you my answer, and then I'm gonna tell you what made it tough. So I'm going Parachutes. The second single was Yellow. It came out in June 26th of 2000. The first one was Shiver, came out March of 2020. So about 3 months apart. But it was tough for me to go Coldplay because the next three albums I actually like the second single better. So Fix You is the second one off X and Y, and the title track off of Viva La Vida was the second one off that. Look at that, Rob, you'll recognize that barcode. It's McKay's barcode.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
And then on Go, well, not chronological, but on Ghost Stories, Sky Full of Stars was number two and Magic was number one. So I always like their second ones better. So that made it tough for me, but I landed on Yellow. First time I saw them, I've seen Coldplay multiple times. If you guys get a chance to see them, great show. But first time I saw them, everything, they give you these bands and the whole place is yellow and then these cannons explode, freaking paper mache butterflies everywhere. It's freaking awesome. So that's my number two pick. I think it charted number four, if I'm right on that. I'm going out off of memory.
I did not realize that Yellow was the second single. I thought Yellow was their debut single.
Oh, Shiver was the first one off that album. That album's good. I mean, everything they did is good, but yeah, Sparks, Trouble, it's all good stuff. But Yellow is my pick for number two of second single.
Yeah, I love this. These are all very different songs so far. So that's very, very cool. And Rob, we are up to your number two.
All right. I went with an album that I love so dearly. This is definitely in my top 10, maybe in my top 5 albums of all time. And so it hurts to say that I even prefer one song over the other, but it's just true. From Recovering the Satellites by Counting Crows, the first single was Angels of the Silences, and the second single is A Long December. And how can you argue with A Long December? I mean, it is just a whole mood. We did a whole episode on it as a season finale, I think. It's just unbeatable, bulletproof song. Mm-hmm. So that I hate to say I love one song on that album more than another, but golly,
yeah,
you can't go wrong there.
I'm asking you to decide between your children. I mean, that's
it.
That's the assignment. But yeah. I mean, and I agree completely. That I think that Long December. I mean, it's an iconic song for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably their number one signature song. I guess a lot of people still know Mr. Jones, but I think probably A Long December has had longer legs even than Mr. Jones did.
All right. I guess that brings me up to number two. And, you talked a little earlier about you were surprised that Yellow was the second single for Coldplay. And I was surprised to find out that this was the second single because it came out in 1978. I was a very tender 11 years old at the time and not really into progressive rock or album-oriented rock quite so much at that point. But I'm going with Kansas from the 1977 October release, Point of No Return. I'm going with Dust in the Wind. Mm. This was released January 16th, 78. So just a couple of months after the album came out, or a few months after the album came out. It's the second of 3 singles from the record. It followed the title track, which came out in October of 77. Which I really wasn't aware that was a single. I know that it's a popular song for them. But then it preceded Portrait He Knew, which came out in May of 1978. The B-side was Paradox. It was written by guitarist Kerry Livgren, who has palled around with your guy, JP. He's been known to play a little guitar with your guy that you like.
Yeah.
Gloves there.
Yeah. He and actually he's done stuff with the third the fourth guest that we will have this next season. He's done a lot of stuff
Right.
with him. So there's a little tease.
Is it Neil Morse?
It's Neil
It
Morse.
is Neil Morse. You're the first to know.
You're the very first one to know. So yeah, listeners, keep it on the down low. Don't
Neil and Phil have a bunch of tremendous duets that they've done over the years. So I'm very jealous that you got Neil.
We actually have seen him at a few shows. We went and saw John Petrucci, and Rob was like, "Hey, there's Neil Morse," and then we went and saw
Dave Barnes' Christmas show.
Show. And I went up and talked to him. I got a picture with him and everything. It was funny because it was like we just talked to him a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
that's great. So yeah, the Kerry Livgren wrote it. Steve Walsh was the vocalist on it, and it's obviously it's a meditation on mortality, and just the fact that everything that's ever been or ever is now or ever will be is going to be gone someday, and it kind of grew out of just a finger picking exercise that Kerry had going. And his wife liked the melody and said, "Why don't you write some lyrics for that song?" And he brought it to the band, and they all said, "That's going to be a single." And it sure was. It only reached number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100 and the Adult Contemporary chart. It was number 3 on Cashbox. It went number 1 in Canada, and as of last year, it was a triple platinum selling single. It's what I like about it. One of the things I like about it is just so different from just about anything Kansas ever did. And it was, for me, Livgren's guitar work, Walsh's singing in this one, everything about the way Steve sings this song, even the phrasing from like when he sings, "Don't hang on, nothing lasts forever but the earth and sky." I mean, this is almost 100% guaranteed to bring a tear to my eye, especially the harmony vocals when Robbie Steinhardt kicks in and just takes it to new heights. So that's my number second. That's not a thing. My second song, "Dust in the Wind" by Kansas.
great choice.
Good job.
And also the inspiration for one of the funniest bits in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
That's a good call. That is a good call. Dust, wind, dude.
Number 3 for me is going to be Five for Fighting's America Town album, because the second track is Superman. It's Not Easy. Came out in April 2001. The first single was Easy Tonight. Two reasons that I think this is so neat. The first single was released September of 2000, and then Superman didn't come out till April of 2001. So there's 7 months between single 1 and single 2. That's like a freaking long time. And for everything that we like about Superman, parenthesis, Rob loves parenthesis, It's Not Easy. You can go to we did an episode. If you go to season 6, episode 5, we hung out with John Andrasik, and we gushed over that song with him for a while. So that'll be a tease for you guys to just go here. We go super deep on it with him. And
JP, did you just come to shill for our podcast?
No.
I can appreciate that. I can that's great.
No, that was not the purpose.
Everything's fair game. Everything's fair game.
That was not the intent. The reason is I can't remember everything that we talked about, and I didn't write down everything. And I put down the bands on all the others. I didn't mention, Will and Guy and Johnny and Chris on the Coldplay section, but with John, it's just him.
It's all him, man.
I'm kind of a meet the band guy, so there's really not that much for me to talk about here because the band is John. So that's kind of a way for me to hide my inadequacies. But I do love that freaking song, and I love that album, and I like that's the one that is the biggest greater gain of track 2 versus or second single versus 1 of all my lists. Like the others are pretty close, but in that one, Superman destroys the others. If that makes sense, destroys Easy Tonight for me. So
okay,
all right,
good.
Okay, I'm gonna skip over. I'm gonna go modern. Pretty modern with this one. Although, gosh, I guess it's 10 years or more old now at this point.
That's how you know you're getting old when you
modern for us.
This is a new song, and then you realize the decade's gone by.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm gonna skip over my next one, which was gonna be a Boys to Men take. I'll tell you, JP. You mentioned Boys to Men earlier. That was gonna be, but I'll tell you later.
Oh man,
I'm going with the album "Some Nights" by Fun. probably their biggest and most well-known song is "We Are Young," and that was the first single. But the title track, "Some Nights," was the second single. And I got to tell you, that's one of my favorite songs of the last, 10, 15 years. It's the production and the level of detail that they went into on the production of that song, and then just the song itself and the delivery. Everything about it is just so wide open. There were no rules in that song at all. They were just like, we're going to do whatever the heck we want to. We're going to layer 85 vocals on top of each other, and we're going to do, you know what I mean? We're going to use like Revolutionary War marching snares and just whatever, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. At random auto tune in the middle of the bridge. Why not? Let's just do it. And man, I just love that level of production. Is something that was like, I forgot that I wanted that in my life. You know what I mean? And when I heard that song for the first time, it just absolutely knocked me off my chair. So I love "We Are Young." I like that whole album, but "Some Nights" is just off the charts.
Who produced that album?
I don't know.
Because it's interesting when they go and have an album put out where you think that did they just sit there in the studio and say, what does this knob do? What does this knob do? What does this knob do? We'll figure it out. We use everything. It's kind of a Mutt Lang thing. Use everything at your disposal. So I guess that brings me to my number 3. We're going to move into the 80s as we move chronologically. We're going to go to 1981, and we're going to go to a song called "Down Under" by Men at Work.
Yeah.
Hey.
So it was released November 2nd, 1981, from Business as Usual, which came out November 9th, 1981. So it preceded the album by a week. And it was the second of 3 singles following "Who Can It Be Now," which came out in June of 81. And it came out before "Be Good Johnny" in April of 1982. The B-side was "Crazy" in Australia and North America, and "Helpless Automaton" in Europe, or "Automaton" as they pronounce it on the album. And it was written by Colin Hay and guitarist Ron Streicher, about an Australian guy traveling to various places, and meeting people and kind of talking to, telling them about his homeland. But it was also, there was an undercurrent there of Colin wanting to talk about the commercialization and the Americanization of Australia. So it was kind of a little bit of a political underpinning to that song. And you could see it in the video. The video was fantastic, by the way, really funny. And there's this weird moment on the beach later in the thing where they're carrying a coffin, and that's kind of what the coffin is supposed to represent. Is that we're losing ourselves here with what we're doing. So not many people know about the commercialization angle of that song, but of course the sad thing about this was that the flute part that catches the ear in this song is actually something that got them sued for the little kookaburra melody that they had that Greg Ham played. And apparently Greg Ham thought that he had come up with it off the cuff, didn't realize that he had cribbed it from somewhere. He did not take that well. The lawsuit was very stressful for them, and he kind of fell into some alcohol problems after that started. And Colin Hay believes that stress and that alcoholism kind of led to his death in 2012. So that's not a happy fact about this song, but it's a fantastic song. And as much as I love "Who Can It Be Now" and that sax and all of that, and our first taste of Men at Work here in the US, and the video on MTV and all that, I just think "Down Under" is just a much better song. And it went to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and the Billboard Top Tracks and the US Cashbox chart. It was number 1 in 6 other countries, including Australia, and has platinum certification in the US. Down Under just hit differently than "Who Can It Be Now," and it's the slang usage in the lyrics was neat. I got to learn what Vegemite was, and it's just a really infectious song. So that's my number 3, Men at Work, "Down Under."
Good call.
Excellent choice. Yeah.
Well, then I'm having to bring in my alternate now, because I want to save my last one for my last one. And since Rob took my number 2, do we want to go left hand or right hand? We'll just do this one. Okay. So I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go Blues Traveler 4.
Okay.
The first track was "Run Around," came out February 28th, 1995. But the second single was Hook, April 29th, 1995. Even though it peaked at number 23 and Runaround hit number 4, number 8, Hook is the superior track. What a premise. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you to go listen to season 1, episode 18.
Not going to do that, folks.
Not because I don't ever tell anybody to go back and listen to our first season, because we're still finding our sea legs there.
But that was literally one of the songs when we first started. It was like when we, obviously you just start making a list. All right, what song are we going to talk about? This is before we ever had guests and, had to worry about like putting things in any kind of order. But like, we got 18 episodes into the show, which now feels like a joke after 250. But like, we got 18 episodes in and I went, how have we gone this long without talking about freaking Hook by Blues Traveler? It's been 18 episodes. We love that song that much.
Yeah. That's and again, I don't disagree. I think it's a better song than the first single, but I will tell you that track 3 on that album is my favorite song by that band ever.
Yeah.
Is that
so track 5 is my favorite, which is The Mountains Win Again. It's so funny that we sandwiched all that.
Yeah, so track 3 is Look Around, and Mountains Win Again is also very, very good, and I'm still not happy that they sold it to a beer company.
I know. But John Popper has lots of swords and cannons and guns. So
That's right. We've confirmed this.
Verified.
Yeah.
All right. So that brings us up to Rob, number 4.
Okay. I tried to get more controversial as I went. I thought part of the fun of this assignment is going to be finding the most narrow space between single 1 and single 2. So I'm gonna try and tweak some listeners as we go. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So reaching my next one is going to be a classic, and it's going to be tough, and some people may not agree, but I'm going to 1989. The band is Aerosmith. The album is Pump. Single 1 is Love in an Elevator. Obviously, it's a classic. Everybody loves Love in an Elevator. Single 2 is Janie's Got a Gun. And for me, that's just, it's a vibe unto itself. Like, Janie's Got a Gun just puts me in a spot. The song, the production, the vocal delivery, the sounds, everything about that, the little whispers you get, all that stuff. I just love every single thing about Janie's Got a Gun. That is a song that I will never skip or turn down. You know what I mean? That's always a crank.
Mm-hmm. I don't even know that. I mean, to me, that's not controversial because I agree with you. I think Janie's Got a Gun is a better song. What do you think, JP? Is he getting it right?
I was going to go, I actually had an Aerosmith take as well, but I'm not going to argue with that logic. There was one that I was going to go. I was going to go the 9 Lives album, but we'll save that for another.
Okay.
So that's a goodie, Rob. I'll back you on that. I'm not.
Were you going? Let's see. Falling in Love was Harder Than Knees, and what was the second single on that?
Takes. I think was the one on.
What was it?
What It Takes.
Oh, what on 9 Lives?
That wasn't on. Hang on just a second.
No, it's got the most incredible melody. I just can't think of what it is. That one?
It's hang on. Let's just look it up so I don't botch it. Google 9 Lives. There's a movie that's got a cat that popped up. So don't go to that because that's not it. I think it's isn't it Hole in My Soul? Is that right?
Hole in My Soul. Thank you. Yes, that's it. Incredible song, dude. One of my favorite melodies of all time. Can't believe I couldn't think of it.
Either I brain farted there,
That's
but
another sign of us getting older.
And I know that was on my short list, and then I didn't even bring the album in here, write it down. I was like, oh, I'll know that one off the top of my head, and then should have wrote it down. That's what happened. Stuff down.
The great thing about this topic is it can be done unlimited times. So
yeah, this is I loved when you brought this idea up. I was like, what a fantastic idea! I love this assignment. It's great.
I think that it's the other thing too is we continue to pick out different types of songs, different like songs that aren't really close to each other in sound. If you put all these songs on a mixtape, it would make no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, no continuity at all.
All right, so I guess we're gonna go to my number 4, and it's kind of this is what I thought was my closest call between the first single and the second single, the closest razor thin margin, and I'm probably gonna get some hate mail from some fans of this band, because I went with Def Leppard at my number 4 from the Hysteria album. I went with Women, the second single released August 25th of 1987, which was just a couple of weeks after Hysteria dropped, August 3rd of 1987. It was the second of an incredible 7 singles from this record.
That's insane.
It followed Animal, which came out July 20th, 1987, and it preceded Pour Some Sugar on Me, which came out Pour Some Sugar on Me came out 13 days after the second single. They released their third single.
Wow.
Give it time to breathe, guys.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then they also had the title track, Armageddon It, Love Bites, and Rocket were the other singles. The B-side was Tear It Down, which the band later re-recorded and released on the Adrenalize album. And it was the only single from the album not to appear on the Vault Hits compilation. So that's where the controversy is. It's like, this was my choice. It was
dark horse.
Written by Joe Elliott, Rick Savage, Phil Collins, Steve Clark, and Mutt Lange. It only reached number 80 on the Billboard Hot 100, maybe because you guys threw the Pour Some Sugar on Me out there really quickly.
No kidding. Really cut the legs out from under that one, didn't they?
Yeah. Man, but I don't think you're going to have a lot of support on that, Michael, and I like it. I think as much as I was trying to be controversial, your take is definitely a lot more scorching than most of ours that we've come in.
See, Animal's a good song, and I like Women just a little.
I like Women too.
Better. The lyrics are a little problematic, but it's not a great lyric album. Hysteria. It's a little clumsy attempt to get biblical in the lyrics here. But I think it's an infectious song. And although I say I like it better than Animal, it's not by like I said, it's not by a wide margin. I don't love the spoken word part in the middle of Animal. So that's probably what gives the edge to Women for me. So it's not my favorite of those 7 singles, but it is a second single that I like better than the first.
Great call.
I have a hard time. I have to read their lyrics. They're one that I have to read them. I can't pick up on them.
Yeah.
And they're very quick.
Dude. Yeah. And they're so similar. Like his words are all the same.
Yeah.
And what this is not how I feel, because I do like Def Leppard. My friend used to say, "What has 9 arms and sucks?" It's Def Leppard. But I like Def Leppard, so I'm with you on that one. So
my uncle had a joke called what did he say? What? Forget it.
Yeah,
I'll get in trouble. Forget it. I'll get in trouble.
I was gonna say probably get you canceled anyway.
Let's just move on. I was gonna go there, and then I decided it's probably better not to go there.
Yeah, you're smarter than I am. I should have not talked.
All right.
By the way,
I'm gonna do it. Screw it. My uncle's joke was, "What do you call a dog with wings?"
What's that?
Linda McCartney.
Oh.
This was obviously before she passed away.
Wow.
I feel much better about my joke.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
man,
please direct all hate mail to my uncle, not to me.
Jeez. Before we start round 5, I have to say something that I meant to say at the very top of recording, and that is, Michael, I have to give you props for the lyric quote that is on the homepage of your website from the Refreshments. We could find a speck of dust and scribble down our life story. Fizzy Fuzzy Big and Buzzy, one of my all-time favorite albums. Like, if it's not in my top 10, it's very, very, very close. And I don't know almost anybody else who knows anything other than Banditos, if they know anything off that record at all. So got to give you big props for pulling out a Refreshments quote on your homepage.
Thank you. That is an album that got me through a lot of depressed evenings in college with the help of a lot of alcohol. Yeah, I absolutely adore that album. So,
oh man, it's fantastic.
And their lyrics are just amazing. Them and the Gin Blossoms, and the Connells all kind of got me through about a 3-year period where I wasn't in a good place mentally. So, I had to put that down. I just figured that's a great line to put for somebody that's writing about music.
Absolutely.
So
JP, you want to kick us off with our round 5?
Finale. So I've had this guy staring at you in the face the whole night, barely, in my faded hair. So here's my Sting section. So I was like, do I go? I'm going to do something Sting. Do I go Police or do I go Sting solo? So here's how I did it. I was going to go Ghost of the Machine, because the second track is Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic. First one's Invisible Sun. I'm like, that's the winner. But the winner for me, and probably this is a hot take, but this may be my favorite one. Is Soul Cage's album All This Time was number one, was the first one. It came out in December of 90, and then March of 91 Mad About You comes
Ooh.
out, and that is the first album with Dominic Miller on guitar. And I mean, it's the story of King David, Manu Katché on drums.
Oh, it's great.
Only reached number 59 on the charts, but I think that is
man.
Sting's most underappreciated song ever is Mad About You. The drum, I mean, me and Rob have talked that before. I think we mentioned it before. That's a hip hop song ready to happen.
Absolutely.
So that's going to be my pick is Mad About You from Soul Cages by Sting.
That's a great pick. I'm
love
not mad about the pick, but I do love All This Time. I would say I love All This Time a little more. The line
Too. So
men go crazy in congregations, they only get better one by one is a freaking amazing lyric.
It is truly. Great take, JP. That's why we're friends. Takes like that is why we connect the way we do, man. That's solid. All right, I'm coming in with what I feel like is kind of a scorcher for my fifth one, and maybe not. I could be wrong. You guys may agree with me, and everybody in the world may agree with me. But I feel like it's going to upset some folks, and that's what I'm here for, to make people angry.
Why we're here.
I am going with an all-time iconic album. We're going with "The Stranger" by Billy Joel.
Ooh.
And the first single was "Just the Way You Are," which is an absolute Billy Joel classic, beloved, sung at 18 bajillion weddings and, whatever. But single 2, I'm going with "Moving Out," Anthony's song.
Yeah.
It's got parentheses, which I love in the title. But I think it's I just like the song more. I don't really have a great defense for it. Both songs have anything Billy Joel writes is going to be great musically. It's going to be great lyrically. It's, hard to like kind of reasonably argue one song over another, but just "Moving Out" to me, it's the better song. It's the one that gets me.
Syllabled vehicle ever. Cadillac.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Makes me happy.
I love the pick. That's a great pick. I agree with you. I think those are songs that, depending on your mood, that's going to determine which one you reach for, to hit play on. But for years, that was my favorite Billy Joel song. So, and
it's got a groove that like doesn't really appear anywhere else really in his catalog. It's kind of a thing that's just very different. You know what I mean? And so, and even there's not a lot of pop songs that have that kind of, feel anyway. So I just love it. It stands above for me.
Yeah. The cadence of the verses is amazing.
Yeah.
Mr. Cacciatore down on Sullivan Street.
Yeah.
Across from the medical center. That's great. That's great call. I am moving into the 90s, guys, as we wrap up our fifth round here. I'm going with a band that a lot of people love, R.E.M.
Okay.
From Automatic for the People, I am going with "Man on the Moon."
Yeah.
Came out November 9th of 92. Automatic for the People was released in October 5th of that year. And it was the second of 6 singles on the album. It followed "Drive," which came out September 21st, 92. I remember the world premiere video for "Drive" on MTV, because I'm an old person. And then the next one that came out after "Man on the Moon" was "The Sidewinder Sleeps Tonight." Came out February of 93, and it was followed by "Everybody Hurts," "Night Swimming," and my favorite R.E.M. song of all time, "Find the River." The B-side was the New Orleans instrumental number 2, and the lyrics were written by Michael Stipe, and the music was written by Bill Berry and Peter Buck, although the whole band is credited, as they usually did. As good as "Drive" is, and it is a good song, man, this song is just so great. Everything about it, the slidey guitar work, there sounds like there's some mandolin going on in the background of that thing, the vocal work that kind of flies in from like everywhere. If you listen to this thing in headphones, you got different band members' voices coming in at different times. The harmonies on the word "moon," just an amazing song. And it's funny because I think this was one of those albums where every single that came out, I liked the next single better than the previous single, and culminating in "Find the River," which I just find a phenomenal song. So My number 5, R.E.M. Man on the Moon.
Great call. Love it. That's probably my favorite REM song. I'm not the world's like, I don't go deep with REM, so I'm mostly a singles guy with them, but that's probably my favorite.
I'm so glad you mentioned that album because I feel like everybody likes Everybody Hurts, but I really like Night Swimming. That's a great song. I think that's a goodie. The
Solid.
I tell you one thing I kind of didn't put on my list because I thought amidst us, I figured someone would put it I figured somebody would put Freebird because that was the second.
Uh,
I was like, Give Me 3 Steps was the first one. I was like, okay, that one will get chopped by somebody. But this was a lot of fun, Michael. Thank you for letting us.
yeah.
Oh man, thank you guys for coming on. This was fun for me because it allowed me to go by go through my collection, and I would go look something up thinking, oh yeah, that's definitely a good one. And then I'd find out, wait a minute, that was actually the third single, not the second single. I thought it was and there would be another single that I forgot about. And then I would be like, why did they put that thing out as the first single? That didn't go anywhere. So there were so many of those, but I feel like, obviously it's all subjective, and we might get a ton of comments that say you guys are all idiots and the first single was better in every single one of these instances, whatever. But
another day in our life.
it was fun because I think it does show you that maybe when we're all on different pages than the record companies or the bands themselves in some instances, that this was a fun little exercise. And you don't know really what's going to speak to people when you put it out there in the world.
Yeah,
true.
And this was I'm telling you, the topic was so, I can't tell you how excited I was. Rob sent me he's like, here's kind of what he wants to cover. And that night I was like, okay, Rob, let me get some like I was already in it. Like that very night, my stack of CDs and I was whittling them down and vinyls. And I was like, okay, how are we going to make this happen? So great topic. Great show. Thank you, Michael, for letting us peons come on and be a part.
Now, come on, I'm the self-deprecating one around here. The first one I thought of when I thought of the topic without one in mind, but the first one that came to my mind was that Men at Work one. It was like just off the top of my head. Well, I know for a fact Down Under came out as the second single after Who Can It Be Now, and I like that one better. So there's probably a ton more. And like I said, I didn't really even look at this very long. I just kind of started hunting around, and it really came together pretty quickly. I could do probably 10 more shows like this, and or even you go deeper, you go third single or fourth single, like JP's got a bunch of fourth ones.
Dude, that's the thing that I'm so glad I got clarity on. That's the first thing I asked Rob. I was like, dude, does it have to be number 2? And he's like, yeah. I was like, because if we start going thirds and fourths, like not a chance I could narrow this thing down. It's good call on that, Michael. Well said.
The funny thing about this topic, how it came about, is that I was just singing. I was actually singing to myself Iron Maiden's Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, and I started screwing around with Second Son of a Second Son, and then I went Second Song of a Second Song. There might be something there that we can do. It just kind of that's just how my brain works. It doesn't work normally, and but I'm glad you guys had fun with it, because when I approached you guys, I definitely always had planned to come find you guys and talk about your show. I always love to support and promote the shows that I listen to. And I just wanted a topic, and I was like, I don't know if they're going to like this topic, but if anybody will like this topic, it's probably these guys.
That's right. It's just dorky enough for us to latch on to. It really is.
Yeah. So why don't you tell everybody again where they can find you guys online? I don't care who does it. Both of you, either one of you.
Greatsongpodcast.com is kind of the hub, and you can connect to all the different podcast players there, or just listen online. You can search through the archives, or we've got pages that are like, if you want to listen to shows from the 90s, they're all there. Shows from the 80s, or songs from like icons, icons. I don't know why I said icons, but like everything's there, and that's probably the best place to start. And that way you can get it in your favorite, in your favorite player, or find an episode to love really easily. So, and we start season 11 on February 7th. Is that right, JP?
February 8th.
February 8th. Yeah, excuse me. I got my dates wrong. February 8th starts season 11. So, coming right around the corner.
Okay. So new episodes drop, on Wednesdays for you guys?
Wednesdays, every Wednesday. Yep.
Okay. All right. You want to give out your socials?
Instagram is mostly where we're hanging out now, at Great Song Pod. Excuse me. We also have a Facebook group that is a lot of fun. We've got a really nice community going on there. The group is called Great Songs and the Great People Who Love Them Greatly. Or you can just go to facebook.com/groups/Great Song Pod. I also have to put in a plug for a new show that I'm co-launching in March that is going to be a sister show to the Great Song Podcast, which is called Cinema Snack Bar. Myself and Zeke Tucker, we're covering the movies that you love and the foods that help make them awesome. So we're doing a little movie reviews, a little cooking, a little recipes. It's going to be a lot of fun. And that launches March 7th.
Awesome. Well, and you're on Twitter as well. Did you? I don't know if you mentioned.
We're on Twitter as well at Great Song Pod. Not as active there anymore, but yeah. And I'm on Twitter personally at Worship Nerd. I don't ever tweet there anymore, but you're welcome to follow me if you want. And JP is on there at Penny Trader 10, and he doesn't really tweet either. So I don't know.
But they're there.
Yeah, they're there.
So you can bump up those follower counts. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank everybody for listening. You can go to michaelsrecordcollection.com, find links to all my stuff, sign up for my free newsletter. All my social links are there. You can sign up for my Patreon, or at least go look at it and see if any of the extra value appeals to you for supporting this independent endeavor. No high pressure sale here from me. And like the videos and subscribe to the YouTube channel and all of that good stuff. Rob Alley, JP Moser, Great Song Podcast. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show and doing this topic, because I would have probably done it by myself in my den here, but it was more fun to do it with other people.
Yeah, man, it's been great.
We'll do it again sometime.
Yeah,
if you have us back, if we haven't overstayed our welcome, we'll come hang out again. I had a good time.